Millions revealed. The heartwarming moment a millionaire discovered his unexpected generosity. Jack Thompson stood on the balcony of his opulent mansion, overlooking the sprawling city of Springfield, Missouri. The skyline glittered like gold, a stark contrast to the embers of despair smoldering below among the families struggling with the factory's unexpected closure. Jack had built his empire through cold, calculated decisions, his heart encased in a fortress of wealth and prestige. But as he sipped scotch, the whispers of anguish from the streets crept through the cracks of his polished exterior, threatening to pull him into their abyss. One afternoon, the universe threw a curveball. His phone buzzed, shattering the silence of his business strategy meeting. It was Laura, his estranged sister, the memories of their childhood washing over him like a tidal wave of guilt. "Jack," her voice trembled, "my son's school, the only haven for our kids, is about to close. We need help." Her plea pierced his ironclad mentality. For the first time he felt something, a tightening in his chest, something almost like remorse. Reluctantly he agreed to lend a hand, expecting merely to flick a check her way. But his plans crumbled as he uncovered the layers of pride and desperation in her community. Families gathered in the gymnasium of the school, their courage standing shoulder to shoulder with their vulnerability. He heard stories that made his heart ache, dreams of futures built on hope rather than just wealth. It was as if he had stepped into the pages of a storybook, where real heroes fought not for gold, but for the dignity of their children. Amidst hesitant smiles, Jack's wealthy friends cautioned him against being too generous. "You're eroding the very meritocracy you've built, Jack," they warned. But standing in the gym filled with hopeful eyes, he felt an echo of something long forgotten, a heartbeat of empathy. With a determination born from this unsettling new awareness, he decided to organize a fundraiser. The idea sparked like wildfire, igniting something far beyond mere philanthropy. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the night unfolded, the air buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. There was a magic to it, like reuniting with lost family, a sensation so foreign yet intoxicating. People poured their hearts out, recounting struggles and triumphs, knitting a tapestry of shared experiences. Jack realized he wasn't just giving. He was being given something in return, his humanity. But as they celebrated newfound hope, a late-night call from an old business partner crashed over him like a cold wave. The looming threat of exposure hung in the air. Would he lose all he had? In a moment of self-reflection, Jack found himself at a crossroads, torn between a life built on profit and a desire to embrace the very essence his father had once taught him: community and family. But would he dare to risk it all? Or would the shadows of his past cast a dark veil on this newfound path of generosity? As the laughter faded and silence enveloped the room, the choice remained heavy in his heart, waiting to reveal the man he was meant to be. The next morning, Jack woke up with an unfamiliar weight pressing on his chest. The events of the fundraiser rolled through his mind like a film on repeat: the laughter, the stories, Laura's proud smile. Yet the memory of that late-night call lingered, a dark cloud threatening to overshadow everything he had just begun to embrace. As he paced the marble floor of his grand foyer, thoughts collided like storm clouds. He adored the rush of giving, the warmth that suffused him as families lit up with hope. But could they weather the fallout if the truth came crashing down? He rubbed the bridge of his nose, chasing away the growing headache. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that his business partner, Carl, had a different agenda. Carl had always eyed Jack's wealth with envy, whispering promises of shortcuts and manipulations that he knew deep down were wrong. Now that Jack was straying from the one path that had brought him success, was Carl sharpening his knives, just waiting to strike? A flicker of determination ignited within him. Jack knew he needed to act quickly to protect the vulnerable people he'd come to care about. He stepped out onto the balcony again, allowing the cool breeze to wash over him. The city glittered below, but beneath the surface, he sensed brewing storms. Maybe it's time for a conversation with Carl, he muttered to himself, as he picked up his phone. Dialing Carl's number felt like stepping onto a tightrope. He balanced uneasily between the man he used to be and the one he aspired to become, a risk-taker not for profit, but for people. When Carl picked up, his voice dripped with faux cheer, masking underlying tension. "Jack. What's going on? You seemed enthusiastic at the fundraiser. What are you hoping to achieve with your newfound generosity?" The sarcasm was thick like a dense fog. Jack clenched his fists. "I want to talk about the project in Springfield. I'm going to invest more than we ever discussed." Carl scoffed, the sound echoing in Jack's ears. "You're just asking for trouble. You're going soft, buddy. You forget what this world is about." More tense words flew back and forth until Jack made a choice he hadn't expected. "I'm done, Carl. No more shortcuts, no more games. I'm focusing on something real. Can you dig that? Real? Who are you?" Carl's voice went cold. "You'll regret this, Jack." The line went dead, and Jack dropped the phone onto the couch, heart racing. With Carl now out of the picture, the stakes shifted. Jack felt the weight of responsibility thrust onto his shoulders. There was more at risk than just his company's image. Lives hung in the balance, hidden behind the smiles he now cherished so much. He decided to return to Laura's community, to ground himself in the lives he was beginning to intertwine with. As he stepped down from the balcony, the sun glinted off the glass surfaces of his mansion, but he hardly noticed. What mattered was the warmth of the gym that had filled with laughter and hope. As he drove toward the school, visions of the children and families fueled him. The sparkle of possibility twinkled in his chest. What if he really could change their future? But as he approached the community center, he couldn't shake the icy grip of that conversation with Carl. As he parked the car, he noticed a figure waiting at the entrance, silhouetted against the bright sky. He squinted, and his breath caught in his throat when he recognized the face, his old mentor. A beacon from his past, whose presence could tip the scales. What did he want? Would he support Jack's change of heart or serve as another reminder of his old life? The question hung in the air, heavy with the promise of revelation. Jack stepped out of the car, his heart racing as he approached his former mentor, Mr. Harrison. The older man was a steady presence, with silver hair neatly combed back and eyes that held wisdom from a lifetime spent navigating the tumultuous waters of business. As Jack drew closer, he felt that familiar blend of admiration and trepidation. "Jack." Mr. Harrison greeted him warmly, but with a discerning gaze. "I heard about the fundraiser. It's good to see you putting your wealth to good use." "Thanks," Jack replied, his voice a mix of pride and uncertainty. "But I'm not sure if it's going to last." "Why is that?" Mr. Harrison asked, tilting his head slightly, a gesture Jack recognized. It was the same look that meant he was about to delve deeper. Jack took a breath, feeling the weight of the truth resting heavily on his tongue. "I've had a rough conversation with Carl. He doesn't agree with my direction. I think he sees this as a weakness." Mr. Harrison nodded thoughtfully, the sun catching the silver of his hair. "People often fear what they don't understand. And when you change, some will fight back to maintain the status quo." Jack looked away, glancing at the community center doors that stood open behind them, laughter spilling out into the summer air. "But I can't go back. I want to help these people, not just with money, but with real change." "Then you must be prepared to stand firm," Mr. Harrison replied, stepping closer. "You have the power to make a significant impact, Jack. But it won't come without challenges." Jack felt a stir of resolve within him. What if I could transform this entire community, create something amazing here? But what if it all crumbles? Every great endeavor starts from a place of risk. Remember, Jack, with great wealth comes great responsibility. You can choose to be a force for good. They stood in silence for a moment, the vibrant sounds of the community chatting and playing washing over them. Jack felt inspired. "You really think I have that power? I've seen you lead before. This time, let it be for the right reasons," Mr. Harrison said, a gentle smile creeping onto his face. Suddenly, a loud burst of laughter erupted from the center, catching Jack's attention. Children were running outside, chasing each other, their faces lit with joy. He felt a surge of emotion. realizing how much he had started to long for this kind of connection in his life. But as the laughter faded into another serious thought, he recalled Carl's warning. And what if Carl tries to undermine me? He knows I'm vulnerable now. He could expose things. Throw my entire plan off course. Mr. Harrison placed a firm hand on Jack's shoulder, grounding him. Create a network of support. Allies who will stand with you when the storm hits. Remember, every leader has those who believe in him. Jack nodded, the possibilities unfurling in his mind. There was a path forward. With Mr. Harrison by his side and Laura's community behind him, they could be the support he needed. But then, a shadow crossed his face again, as a sudden thought struck. And what if I don't have enough support? What if I am too late? Just then, a commotion erupted from inside the center. Jack turned to see several people gathering at the entrance, their expressions tense. Something was happening. Stay close, Mr. Harrison urged, sensing Jack's growing concern. They moved toward the door, but uncertainty gnawed at Jack. What had he just stepped into? What challenges awaited him? The sense of urgency pulsed, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the struggle was just beginning. As they crossed the threshold, Jack's heart raced. Would this moment reveal the truth of his path? Or would it send everything spiraling into chaos? Jack and Mr. Harrison stepped into the community center, the door swinging shut behind them with a thud that resonated in the charged atmosphere. The laughter and chatter faded, replaced by a palpable tension that hung loosely in the air. Inside, a group had gathered around a table, their heads bent together, voices low. As Jack approached, he caught snippets of worried conversation. A woman's voice rose above the rest, shaking with urgency. We can't just stand by and let this happen. Pushing forward, Jack felt his palms sweaty, heart pounding louder than the conversation around him. He caught a glimpse of Laura standing at the center of the crowd. She was pale, her hands clenched tightly around the edge of the table, her eyes darting anxiously between the faces surrounding her. What's going on? Jack asked, his voice cracking with concern. Laura turned, relief washing over her features. Jack. Thank goodness you're here. We've got a serious problem. Some of the funds for the community project have gone missing. We think someone is trying to sabotage the event. The words hit Jack like a punch to the gut. Missing? How could that happen? It's not just missing, one of the volunteers interrupted, his frustration evident. We need to act fast. If news gets out, it could ruin everything. This fundraiser means so much, not just for the center but for everyone involved. Jack's mind raced. Carl's warnings echoed in his head. Was this the beginning of all his fears coming to life? Who would do that? Why sabotage something that could help so many? I wish we knew, Laura replied, her voice thick with emotion. But we're running out of time. We need to find out who's behind this, or we might have to cancel. Mr. Harrison stepped forward, his eyes thoughtful. Let us focus on what we can do right now. We need to gather our resources, talk to everyone involved, and see if anyone noticed anything suspicious. Jack, you're a part of this now. This is your chance to show them what you're made of. Jack inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He looked around at the anxious faces, the volunteers who had poured their hearts into this project. The children whose future depended on a community blossoming with hope. Okay, we'll find out who did this, he declared, his voice steadying with resolve. I won't let this ruin everything we've worked for. With a quick nod from Mr. Harrison, the group quickly divided into smaller teams. The tension in the room began to shift, replaced by a shared purpose. Jack moved with purpose, speaking to each person, gathering information, holding eye contact to show he was with them every step of the way. As they pieced together the fragments of information, Jack's heart began to race again, but not out of fear. It transformed into determination. They had a battle to fight, one that demanded courage and unity. Just as they compiled their findings, a young boy named Eric tugged at Jack's sleeve. Mr. Jack, he said timidly, my mom said you're gonna help us. Is it true? Jack knelt down, meeting Eric's wide, hopeful eyes. Yes, it's true. I promise we're going to fix this. Together. The boy's face lit up with a smile. And in that moment, Jack felt a flicker of hope. A sense of belonging surged within him. Was this why he had come back here, to truly be part of something bigger than himself? But before he could bask in that warmth, the center doors swung open again, and Carl walked in. The tension in the room spiked again. Jack's heart sank. Could this be a coincidence? Or was this the very storm Mr. Harrison had warned him about? Looking for something? Carl sneered, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Jack's resolve wavered slightly, a spark of doubt igniting at the back of his mind. What are you doing here? The air thrummed with uncertainty. Jack wasn't just fighting for the community anymore. He was fighting for himself. What new challenge would Carl throw their way? Would he be their downfall? The moment felt heavier than ever. Darkness swirled around him, and he took a deep breath. But one thing became clear: this wasn't just about the missing funds anymore. It was about standing firm against the storm. Jack clenched his fists, staring at Carl with a mix of anger and uncertainty. The room seemed to shrink around the two of them, filled with whispers and glances. Jack sensed that everyone was watching, waiting to see how this confrontation would unfold. Thought you'd just drop by for the fun of it? Jack shot back, trying to sound braver than he felt. He could feel his pulse quicken, the adrenaline coursing through him. Carl loved that kind of chaos. It was like fuel to a fire for him. Carl stepped forward, a smirk dancing on his lips. I heard there's a little problem. Missing funds, right? I'm sure you're all just great at digging up dirt. Too bad that sometimes it's a little complicated. Complicated? Jack echoed, feeling the heat rise to his cheeks. You think stealing is complicated? It's just plain wrong. You're naive, Jack. Life isn't as simple as you want it to be. Sometimes you have to play dirty to win, Carl retorted, his voice smooth, like he was trying to sell ice to an Eskimo. Laura's hand brushed against Jack's arm, a reminder that he wasn't alone in this. Their eyes locked, and he saw the worry etched on her face. We're not looking to win. We're just trying to help our community, she stated defiantly. Carl chuckled softly, disbelief clear in his expression. Help. This is a game to you, isn't it? And games have rules. What if I hold all the cards? The word stung. But Jack wasn't going to let them derail him. We won't be intimidated, Carl. You might think you have all the power, but you're wrong. This community stands together. In that moment, something shifted in the atmosphere. The murmurs around them began to grow, fueled by Jack's words. People were drawing closer, leaning in, catching the fire of determination that was igniting around the room. Maybe you should take a good look at your cards, Carl, Mr. Harrison interjected, his voice steady, a rock of calm amidst the storm. You might find that they're worth less than you think. Jack caught glimpses of nodding heads among the volunteers. The spirit of unity began to spread like wildfire, touching everyone present. Hope filled the air, tangible and warm. Carl's bravado faltered, and for the first time, Jack saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. You really think you can stand up to me? He asked, though the confidence in his voice wavered. We're the heart of this community, Laura said, stepping forward to stand with Jack. And together, we're much stronger than you. Jack felt a surge of pride wash over him. He was no longer just a spectator in this drama. He was a vital part of it. A wave of strength flowed through him as he felt the weight of everyone's support. But Carl's laughter returned, a sharp sound that sliced through the gathering resolve. You'll need more than courage to fix this. You want to play with the big boys? Let us see if you can really handle what comes next. As he spoke, Jack sensed a storm brewing, but he refused to back down. Whatever you throw at us, we'll face it together. With that, Carl turned and walked away, leaving a tense silence in his wake. As momentum built around them, Jack felt a rush of adrenaline. They had a chance. They could fight back against Carl's games, unite their community, and show everyone what they were truly capable of. But just when he thought they were gaining ground, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room, jolting everyone. Whispers broke out anew as all eyes shifted toward the source of the sound. Jack's heart raced. What now? What new challenge awaited them after facing down Carl? He turned to Laura and Mr. Harrison, questions swirling in his mind, uncertainty creeping back. The fight wasn't over. It had only just begun. What lay behind that crash? Only time would reveal the truth. The hushed murmur in the room deepened as the clatter faded, replaced by an electric tension. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he turned toward the source of the noise. The light flickered momentarily, making shadows dance across the faces of those gathered. Anxiety gripped him. What had Carl set in motion now? There, someone whispered, pointing to a broken wooden chair lying askew, splintered wood scattered across the floor. Jack's pulse raced, but he knew this wasn't just about the chair. The crash had erupted out of tension, a prelude to something much bigger. Stay focused, Jack, Laura murmured, sensing his rising dread. She stepped closer, her voice barely audible above the whispers surrounding them. We're stronger than this, remember? He nodded, trying to channel her courage. But the unease brewed inside him like a storm cloud ready to burst. They had already confronted Carl, but backlash was expected. They had stirred something up, and now it was time to face the wave coming their way. Mr. Harrison stepped forward, taking charge. All right, everyone. Let us clear this up and focus. We can't let this distract us. His steady demeanor aimed to restore order, but Jack could see uncertainty flickering in the eyes of the others. The hope they had just ignited now seemed fragile under a cloud of doubt. Who's next? Carl's taunting voice rang out from the doorway, and the room went tense again. He stood there, arms crossed, a smirk creeping back onto his face like darkness creeping over the horizon. Didn't he think I'd let you have the last word, did you? Jack felt a knot tighten in his stomach. What do you want, Carl? He demanded, his voice firmer than he felt. I want to show you how this game really works, Carl said, taking a step closer. The crowd held its breath, anticipation crackling in the air. Let us raise the stakes. He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his jacket. I've got some information that might change things around here. Laura glanced at Jack, eyes wide with concern. What is that? Carl waved the paper teasingly, and the tension tripled. You're going to want to hear this. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed the paper toward the front of the room, and it fluttered to the floor like a fallen leaf. Every eye was fixed on it, including Jack's. Go on. Pick it up, Carl challenged, his tone dripping with mischief. Unless you're afraid to find out what's really happening in your precious little community. Jack hesitated, the weight of Carl's smirk heavy in the air. Was this a trap? But the curiosity was overwhelming. It wasn't just about saving face anymore. They needed to know the truth, whatever it held. Jack, Laura urged, breaking the spell of silence. We need to know. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it together. Drawing a deep breath, Jack stepped forward. With each step, the whispers continued, the crowd buzzing with uncertainty. He picked up the paper, unfolding it slowly. Before he could read it, a single voice cut through. Whatever he's playing at, we won't let him win. Mr. Harrison declared, glancing at the others. We're not scared of Carl, right? A chorus of agreement rippled through the room. But Jack knew the stakes were about to get higher. He glanced down at the paper, the world around him blurring as he took in the words. But what he didn't expect to see changed everything he thought he knew about Carl and their community as struggles. As hope and anxiety swirled in his chest, Jack faced the uncertain path ahead. What was revealed on that piece of paper? Would it bring them closer together, or tear their fragile unity apart? The answers lay in the unveiling moment ahead, and the ticking clock of their community as fate echoed loud and clear. Jack's hands trembled as he unfolded the paper. The words danced before his eyes, a chaotic blur of ink and paper. Finally focusing, he read the first line, and a cold shiver ran down his spine. It was a tally, a list of names each linked to a sum of money. It was community funds, contributed by families who thought their donations were being used for betterment, not lining the pockets of a deceitful moneymaker. He scanned further, heart racing. It was more than money, it was trust. Families like his, who worked hard every day to contribute to something they believed in. The reality hit him. Carl had been siphoning money, their resources, their faith, exploited for his gain. Laura grasped his arm, her eyes shimmering with a mix of fear and disbelief. What does it say? She whispered urgently. Jack swallowed hard, his mind racing. It's money. Carl has been taking from everyone. From us. The weight of those revelations settled, heavy and suffocating. A guttural murmur spread across the room. Disbelief smearing faces like a heavy fog. Mr. Harrison stepped forward, clearing his throat. We won't let this happen. We'll confront him. We have to stand together. Carl's smirk twisted into a grimace as the murmuring intensified. You think you can take me down just like that? His voice oozed arrogance, but Jack could see a flicker of uncertainty beneath the bravado. You need to understand. This isn't just a game. It's survival. Survival? Jack retorted, his voice stronger now. This is betrayal. You've manipulated everyone for your own gain. Carl shrugged. Life isn't a fairy tale, Jack. Believe me, I know how harsh the world can be. Jack felt Laura's fingers tighten around his arm. People trusted you, she added, her voice shaking. They believed in what we were doing together. And you ruined that. Together? Carl cackled. More like sheep following the wolf. He took a step forward, eyes glinting with malice. You think they all care? I can reveal secrets that will expose everyone's dirty laundry if I choose to. An icy wave swept over the group. Fear rippled through the crowd, but Jack rallied. No more secrets. No more lies. He felt the energy of the room shift, his heart pounding in sync with the hope building beneath the surface. But uncertainty clung like smoke. Jack's eyes scanned the faces of his friends, each one reflecting the struggle of their collective journey. What did they really want to fight for? We have to expose this, he urged, feeling his pulse quicken. We can make this right. Mr. Harrison nodded, determination etched on his face. We're not alone, we have each other. Carl's laugh echoed, but it was tinged with desperation this time. You'll regret this. I will bury you. Or maybe we'll bury your lies. Jack shot back, his courage igniting a fire of resolve among the crowd. But doubt still lingered in the air, a storm ready to break. As Jack looked around, he could see the questions in their eyes. Could they really challenge Carl? Would they stand united, ready to face whatever he could unleash next? The circus was just beginning. Jack's grip on the paper tightened. We expose this, we take back what's ours. He shouted, glancing at Laura, who nodded fiercely, emboldening him. They stepped closer together, somehow defiant yet weary, and as Carl's laughter reverberated, the choice lay heavy before them. Unite and fight against the storm, or shrink back into the comfort of silence. The room crackled with energy, their destiny hanging by a thread. What would happen when they faced the weight of Carl's threats? Would their unity hold? Jack knew one thing for sure. They were on the brink of a battle, and the stakes had never been so high. Would they rise to the challenge? Or would fear fracture their newly found resolve? The moment of truth was inching closer, and Jack felt that old storm brewing again. But this time, they would face it together. What came next could change everything. The tension in the room grew thicker, almost tangible. Jack could feel the weight of every eye on him, offering both support and hesitation like a delicate balance on a tightrope. He knew they were standing on the edge of something monumental, and the future lay before them like a blank slate waiting to be filled. We need a plan, Mr. Harrison said, breaking the silence that lingered after Carl's threats. We can't just march over to Carl and demand answers. He'll twist it, turn it against us. Jack nodded, his heart racing with the urgency of the moment. They needed to strike with precision, not just passion. What if we gather evidence? He suggested, glancing at Laura, who still stood beside him with unwavering determination. We can document everything, collect statements, bring together all those who have been wronged. Then what? Carl sneered from across the room. His posture relaxed, yet the menace in his eyes sharp. You think paper and words will frighten me? I have my connections. I can bury any story you try to spin. Fueled by a surge of anger, Jack stepped forward. You might have connections, but do you have trust? Do you really think the community will rally behind you after this? The room buzzed with murmurs, small sparks of unity igniting among the group. They looked at each other, sharing the flicker of hope that Jack had ignited. Maybe they could stand up to Carl. Maybe they could reclaim what had been taken from them. Laura stepped beside Jack, her voice steady. We have a community that believes in us. We're not alone in this. People will rise up when they see the truth. The flame of resolve flickered strongly between them. Jack smiled at Laura's fierce spirit. It was contagious. Let us organize a meeting. We can invite everyone. If they hear about Carl's betrayal, maybe they'll join us in taking back what's ours. The room erupted into a flurry of conversations as plans started to form. They discussed the logistics, who would speak, how to record testimonies, and share the information to reach those still trapped in Carl's web of deceit. They would rise together, their voices melding into a chorus of defiance. Carl's expression twisted as he observed their newfound conviction. "You're all fools," he hissed, but the quiver in his voice betrayed him. The crowd was no longer shrinking in fear, they were expanding, pushing against the darkness he had cast over them. Jack felt buoyed by the change. Yes, they could do this. The power of their shared experience, the pain of betrayal, could fuel their fight. "We stand together," he called out, the words ringing in the air like a rallying cry. As the group began to disperse into huddles, sharing ideas and plans, Jack caught Laura's eye again. "We might actually make a difference here." She smiled, her eyes bright with hope, and he could feel a silent pledge between them. No longer just fighting for their trust, but for every person who had poured their heart into the community. But as they made arrangements, an unsettling thought crept into Jack's mind. Would Carl really just stand back and let them gather their strength? There was a fire in Carl's eyes, and it was clear he wouldn't go down without a fight. Jack's stomach knotted, the thrill of their mission tempered by the uncertainty of Carl's next move. They had a plan, but would it be enough? The hard truth was Carl was dangerous and desperate men could do terrible things. Tomorrow was coming, and with it the possibility of confrontation. Jack gathered his papers, heart pounding with both excitement and dread. The battle lines were drawn, and the stakes were higher than ever. They were ready to reclaim their community, but what would be the cost? As the darkness of night settled in, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing a game Carl had already mastered. Would the truth be enough to bring down his empire? Or would they find themselves entangled in a web more complex than they ever imagined? The next morning brought a tense stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Jack woke early, heart racing with anticipation. He stared at the ceiling, feeling every second dragging by. Today was the day they would confront Carl. Each tick of the clock echoed his unease. With a deep breath, Jack forced himself to get out of bed. He needed to be sharp, to keep that spark of hope alive. He quickly dressed, a sense of purpose driving him. Today wasn't about the fight against Carl, it was about fighting for something bigger than any one person. While he made his way to the meeting place, Jack spotted familiar faces in the neighborhood, all wearing expressions of determination. It was one thing to feel their support in a crowded room, but seeing them face to face made his resolve solidify. They were ready to take a stand, ready to share their stories. When Jack entered the small community center, the energy inside was palpable. People filled the seats, some anxious, others full of fire. He spotted Laura at the front of the room, her presence steadying everyone around her like a lighthouse guiding lost ships. He couldn't help but feel a swell of admiration. As he walked to join her, Mr. Harrison called the meeting to order. "Thank you all for coming. Today we speak for those who have been silenced." His voice was firm, reassuring the crowd that they were not alone anymore. Jack's heart hammered in his chest as he took a deep breath, ready to share their vision. "We're here because we believe in our community. We believe in each other," he began. "Carl has tried to divide us, but today, we stand as one." A ripple of agreement surged through the room. Familiar faces nodded, some whispering support to each other. It felt like the spark igniting a larger fire. He caught Laura's eye as he spoke, and her encouraging smile gave him the strength to continue. One by one, people shared their experiences, stories of betrayal, fear, and strength. As they spoke, emotions ran high. Laughter bubbled up from shared memories. But sadness weighed heavily when they recalled losses. And with each testimony, the room filled with a sense of collective healing. "Carl might have tried to bury us," one woman said, her voice slightly trembling, "but I believe that truth will always find a way to rise." Jack felt tears prick his eyes, but he blinked them away. This was what they were fighting for, the spirit of togetherness that Carl had tried to extinguish. He looked around, and for a moment, it felt as if they were all woven together in a tapestry of hope. Just as the crowd reached its peak of morale, a loud bang echoed outside. The door flew open, and Carl strode in, flanked by a couple of men who exuded an air of intimidation. The crowd fell silent, a wave of unease washing over them. Well, Carl sneered, his gaze sweeping across the room like a predator sizing up its prey. "What do we have here? A little party without an invitation? Jack's heart sank. The meeting had been meant to rally their courage, not to incite Carl's wrath. He could feel the mounting tension in the air as Carl approached the stage, his intentions unreadable. "Isn't this cute?" Carl taunted, his gaze fixed on Jack. "You really think a bunch of angry villagers can overwhelm my connections? I offer safety. You offer nothing." The people murmured among themselves, fear creeping in again. Jack could hear his heart thumping in his ears. He couldn't let Carl undermine what they built. "Carl," Jack started, his voice trembling but determined. "It's about more than just connections. It's about people. People." Carl laughed, cutting him off. "People are weak, Jack. Trust me." As Jack looked at the faces in the crowd, he realized they were not weak. They had each other, and that was a stronger bond than anything Carl could buy. But what price would they pay for that bond? Jack took a deep breath, ready to push back against Carl, declaring, "We're here to fight for our community. We might not have your money, but we have heart. And that's what makes us strong." But deep inside he questioned if that strength would be enough. Would their spirit be powerful enough to withstand the storm Carl was about to unleash? As Carl's laughter reverberated in the air, Jack felt the tension tighten like a vice. The crowd held their breath, uncertainty threading through the room as they faced this formidable adversary. Jack knew he had to stand firm. There was too much at stake to back down now. "We're not afraid of you, Carl," Jack said, his voice strong and unwavering despite the knots in his stomach. "Your power ends here. You've exploited our trust for too long, and now we're taking it back." "Taking it back?" Carl scoffed, striding closer, flanked by his intimidating companions. "You really believe that? You think numbers and voices mean anything in a world where my influence dominates? But we have something you'll never understand," Laura interjected, stepping up beside Jack. "We have unity. And while you might have connections, we have community." The crowd stirred with affirmation. Jack felt heat rising in his chest, fueled by the emotions swirling around him. This was a moment of clarity. Sure, Carl had power, but Jack had something deeper, an unbreakable bond with the very people he fought for. With a nod from Laura, Jack turned and addressed the crowd. "We need to stay cool. Document everything, share these stories. We're revealing the truth." The people's eyes widened, hope igniting among the shared testimonies. Just then, Carl's men shifted, eyes narrowing at the rising determination in the room. "You think you can get away with this?" Carl hissed, anger seeping through the edges of his arrogant facade. "I can destroy everything you've built in minutes." Jack felt the shift in the atmosphere. Fear swelled, but so did grit. "If you try, you'll face the entire community rallying together," Jack declared. "And there are more of us than there are of your connections." Carl hesitated, frustration flickering across his face as Jack sensed their collective strength rising. It was as if they had all shed the fear that had held them prisoner, united under a common purpose. Emboldened by their determination, Jack stepped forward. "We don't need to fight you with fists or fear. We'll fight with the truth." He raised the document detailing Carl's deception, displaying it boldly for the crowd to see. "Look at the names of family, friends you've manipulated them for your own gain." Gasps filled the room, and Carl's smug expression faltered momentarily. "You think you can win, Jack? You want to lay all your dirty truths bare in front of the world? You might just ruin lives along with your own," he warned, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Jack met his gaze, steel resolve replacing the trepidation. "You forget who you're messing with, Carl. You can't silence the bonds of loyalty and trust forged in this community. We're not just victims, we're a force." With newfound courage, the crowd erupted into noise, voices rising together in a chorus of solidarity. "Truth over lies," someone shouted, echoing the sentiment that ignited the flame of resistance. Carl's bravado faded, revealing just a hint of vulnerability. Jack could see it, fear of losing control. "You might win this round, Jack, but I have many more games to play," Carl spat, turning on his heel. "Enjoy your little moment," he hissed as he motioned for his men to follow him. As the door swung shut behind them, silence took hold for a heartbeat. Then the room erupted into cheers, a collective wave of relief crashing over them like a warm embrace. Jack felt shoulders brush against his, hands clasped in solidarity, and he let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. "Jack, that was incredible," Laura exclaimed, her eyes gleaming with admiration. "You really stood your ground." Jack looked around at the faces surrounding him, a mix of shock, hope and resolve lighting their expressions. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice steadier than before. "We have to keep this momentum going. We'll document our stories, share our truths. Together, we'll reveal all he has tried to suppress." Mr. Harrison stepped forward, pride shining through his features. "You've led these people to stand up for each other. This can't end here. We need to extend our reach, bring in the media, alert local news." Jack nodded emphatically. "Right. We need to broadcast this, show everyone what has been happening, and rally more support." The group buzzed with excitement, sparking ideas and plans as Jack's heart soared with a sense of purpose. It felt like an awakening. They weren't just fighting against a villain. They were fighting for community, hope and family. As they discussed outreach strategies and roles, Jack experienced an exhilarating freedom. These were not just words. They were actions fueled by a calling to uplift their space, to reclaim their dignity. With the community's spirit ignited, they began to organize. Jack looked from face to face, realizing that he had stumbled into something far greater than himself. This was a family, a tapestry of lives weaving together with laughter, pain, and hope. In that moment, Jack knew he had transformed from a man driven by greed and isolation to someone who witnessed the extraordinary strength of collective action. As the plan solidified and the air buzzed with excitement, Jack glanced at Laura, her steadfast smile filling him with warmth. The battle wasn't over, but together, they could face anything. Standing strong in front of their community, Jack raised his voice once more. "United, we can soar above the storm. Let us get to work." And in that shared moment, a seed of hope blossomed, ready to become a tree rooted in purity and strength. Together, they were unstoppable. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it makes a difference. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans know how important it is to support the channel through these actions.